It always surprises people when I say I coach Cody Jones of Dude Perfect and Keanu Reeves. That was a crazy, one of the most stressful weekends of my life though. The hardest part about being a driver is the work outside of the race car that it takes. 95% of your job is finding the funds or finding the opportunity, because you never know the next time you're going to get in a race car.
So welcome back to another episode of FanAmp Insider. This time we have a very special guest in a very special place. So for those who don't know, who's Alexander Koreiba?
My name's Alexander Koreiba. I'm a racing driver competing in various forms of motorsports, IMSA Prototype Challenge, Indy Next stuff. Just enjoy not having a real job and driving in circles. And I always say I'll never have a midlife crisis because I've always been in one. Yeah.
That's a very good phrase.
Yeah. I also didn't, I don't have any college experience or anything like that. So any job outside of driving, I am literally screwed. So, yeah.
You grew up in middle of nowhere. It's called Branson, Missouri. How many people in that town?
I think there's 10,000 people total, but I will say it's a tourist capital, and it's like 8 million people a year visit because it's like Christian, family-friendly Vegas.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of different. I grew up with family in the entertainment business. It's weird growing up with parents who held microphones for a living rather than had like a 9-to-5. So maybe that's another reason why I want to avoid having a real job as well.
Yeah.
So
obviously you grew up around music and not race cars. So what was that first moment that made you decide this is what I'm going to do?
I think the thing that led into getting into racing and just loving cars, I don't know where it came from, but my mom even said, like, when I was 2 years old, I was leaning out of my stroller to watch the wheels turn. So it's like, obviously there was something in me from the very beginning that loved cars or motorsports or anything like that. But then when I was like 6 years old, 7 years old, my dad had a Corvette Z06. And that was like the thing where you're a little kid and it's like, this is the fastest thing on earth. He'd gun it in third and grab fourth gear and that sort of thing. And it's like, this is everything. Like, this is in me. Like, I can feel this amazing car. And I don't know what this is, but I really love it. And from then on, it was like, loved cars, got into racing more, started, getting into it and just seeing how can you become a driver per se. And that was all stemmed also from you as a kid, you're watching, Top Gear USA specifically, because I literally just wanted to be Tanner Foust. Once I saw Tanner Foust as a kid, I literally just wanted to be Tanner. This is the coolest dude ever. He drifts, he's on TV. How do I be that guy? And that's really what made all that start, honestly.
What was that first step? Like, what do you do?
I remember Googling how to become a race car driver. Looking that up, and you find YouTube videos or you find forums back in the day or something like that. I remember finding out about like what karting was, and that sort of thing. And then upon all my research, I started figuring out who the likes of Fernando Alonso were, Michael Schumacher, all these famous drivers. And then that's when like the drive for like the IndyCar side of things happened, because who doesn't want to do 240 miles an hour at Indianapolis? So I don't know how I did it, I will be honest with you. I don't know how I ever got to where I am now, because I'm like the last person from, Bumblecrud, Missouri that should be anywhere near an IndyCar, that kind of thing. So
starting late, 14. What was it like karting as a 14-year-old next to, I would assume, like 8-year-old?
We did have classes for that, I will say.
Good.
But at the age I was starting, it was like these kids had been doing it for 10 years, since they were 5 years old. And it was just, my whole career has been baptism by fire, where it's like, hey, you want to come drive this car? And it's a free opportunity where it's like, sure, I'll figure it out, and you just hope you don't crash the car, number one, and that you have the natural talent to pull it off. I always say I've always had like this stupid blind confidence and that, I can do it. Yeah, just put me in the car. I can figure it out. And that's been my whole career. Like, first race ever, I had done 10 laps before we started the race and got third place in my first race ever. And it's like, maybe there's something a little bit to this.
Where does the blind confidence come from? Is it because your parents are entertainers? You kind of have to be that way?
Yeah, I'd say that kind of stems from it. Also, my dad, preaching into me since I was a young kid. He'd always call me like, you're a champion, you can do anything you set your mind to, and all those kinds of things. And evidently I believed him. So, yeah.
But was there a moment when you, maybe very early on when you first stepped into the car where something happened, you took a turn, or the car, anything, and you're like, oh shit, like I have that talent, I have that innate ability?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest like aha ever for me was first time in a race car. When I turned 18, I hopped in a race car for the first time, and the moment I got in one at the Lucas Oil School of Racing, which is like a Formula style car, baby Indy car, if you will, no wings, no real big horsepower or anything, just momentum style cars. The moment I got into that car, it was like, this is what it's all about. Like I immediately was on pace with, oh my gosh, like this is what it's about. Like the moment I got in a race car, it just clicked.
So who were your early influences?
My dad, it's kind of crazy though, even you just bringing that up, because it's like he, being an entertainer, he was a singer his whole life. For him to like become a racing dad was not normal, right? Didn't know anything about it, but you know, I thank him to this day for it, that he just took me to the track, right? And he you know, brought me there in his pickup truck, and we unloaded the go-kart that he eventually bought me, and yeah, it's incredible that he was able to do that. But there were several influences during those days. You know, it was one driver named Kenny Foster, who was like the mega driver at that local track, who took me under his wing kind of thing, and then he built me up and helped me, and then he's a big reason, all the hard work as to why I am where I am.
You were essentially, from what I read in your local newspaper that did a beautiful piece on you,
yeah.
You were working your butt off essentially to be able to like afford to race, including trading your skills in social media to be in that car. To put it in context, how much time were you spending working versus being in the actual car?
I mean, for any driver, you know, 95% of your job is finding the funds or finding the opportunity, or you know, walking around paddocks or talking to team owners, whatever it might be. The 5% of the other time, and the most fun part, obviously, is the driving of the race car. It's the other stuff that is the hard part, is the work outside of the race car that it takes. And it's a haul, to say the least.
To put that into more context for the people like who watch, what does that feel like for you? How did that evolve as you got older and older and all of this?
You start out as a kid and you're looking at it and you're like, I want to be a IndyCar driver, I want to be a NASCAR driver or an F1 or whatever, and it looks like they're just drivers and they just show up and they're heroes, you know, and they get to drive race cars, and then it's kind of funny. It's like that moment in Wizard of Oz where you pull the curtain back and the wizard's just sitting right back there, where it's like, oh, like that's not how this works. Like it's not just about being fast or, you know, that type of thing. There's so much more behind it that changes the way the industry, even, you know, you perceive it and the way you look at that industry. Because yeah, at the end of the day, it's not just a sport where honestly the best make it or something like that, right? There's a million other things that factor into, number one, you getting in that race car, and number two, winning in that race car.
Speaking personally, I find like that fundraising notion of it to be the hardest thing, because you're convincing other people to bet on you to do any of it. And it can be some of the most depressing days I've ever felt in my life, like speaking very honestly. I'm curious, how has that been for you? How do you push yourself through it?
Yeah, I mean, you have your bad days, that's for sure. And it's like, you know, another deal doesn't go through, or, you know, a ride didn't come together at the last minute. And those are rough, right? You're questioning why you're still doing this, and is this even possible? Is this for me, and all that kind of stuff. And then early on in your career, when you're like selling your heart out to these people, and it's like, please believe in me and that kind of stuff, when you know nothing about sponsorship or anything like that, and you're just hoping that you say the right thing and do the right things, that they believe in you, and it doesn't work out, those are tough. It's easy to get bitter about, I should be in that car and I should have that opportunity and that type of stuff. And it still is now. You know, sometimes you walk around and you're like, you know, I know I'm faster than these guys. I've been faster my whole career, but they're the ones in the seat, right? And that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. But, you know, I heard a driver recently say that, you know, something that is a major career killer for a lot of drivers is being bitter. Right? It's gonna hurt your career more than it's gonna help. Now, I've been in it long enough now that it's like, okay, like I said, you know, next one, on to the next, on to the next. Now, there still are tough days, right? And honestly, the thing that helps a lot with that is just getting back in a car and yeah, reigniting your love for the sport, or just like going and training or something like that, you immediately, yeah, and also I'm thankful for the route that I've had as well, as much as it like sucks at times. Believe me, it sucks. Everything about the networking of racing is you're always on, right? You go to a Super Bowl party, or you go to this, or you're sitting in the airport, sitting on an airplane, whatever. It's like, you're always looking for opportunities, and that goes all the way down to do a speech at a dinner the night before a race when some guys are like, oh, I need my rest. I'm like, not me. I got to go entertain the people who are helping pay for this thing.
Sitting in a car warehouse or a car dealership,
yeah,
talking to us.
Right,
There you go.
exactly.
Do you have like a designated space or time or whatever that you're like, I'm off, I'm done, like don't talk to me, like this is my moment to spend with myself?
I would say the only time I'm like away from that side is when I'm on the simulator.
Come on, Chris.
And I'm just like having fun driving. That's a really fun aspect, is like I'm a jerk to the other sim racers online. I really am.
Oh, dang it.
Because I view iRacing as my place where I try new moves.
Do you get on the headset like you're on Xbox Live and curse people out?
I don't curse them out because it's my real name on iRacing, so I don't want them seeing
fair.
that. I've legit had people message me on my Instagram before, DMing me, saying, bro, you took me out in last night's race. On, at Petite or
You
something
read
like
back, sorry, I'm testing.
Yeah, I'm like, sorry, bro. That's all you get.
It's not real.
It's not real. Yeah. So.
Fair enough. So you also teach people
Yeah.
to race?
Yeah.
Or
It always
drive?
surprises people when I say I coach and I instruct and that kind of thing. But that I bet 90% of drivers, when they're not racing, our day job is instructing, teaching other people how to race, right? And that's what we do as professional drivers. And two people we got to coach this past year was Cody Jones of Dude Perfect. He was kind of my driver during the full experience. 6 months of training to get him ready for the Toyota GR Cup. And it was our job to train him up to become a race car driver.
How was he?
He was fantastic, honestly, because he really took it seriously. It's a difficult thing to train somebody for, right? When you haven't done it your whole life, it's not just about being fast, right? Not just about your outright speed or anything like that. It's how do you race people on the track? What is your racecraft like? How do you handle the highs and lows of a race weekend, right? How do you condition yourself as well? What does training look like? And all those kinds of things. And he took it like an absolute pro. And then the other guy that was along with Cody Jones was a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's called Keanu Reeves. Have you ever heard of him?
I know a John Wick.
Yeah, John, yeah. I think they're related.
Oh,
they're
okay.
related. Same.
Brothers,
family.
Yeah. So that was a crazy, one of the most stressful weekends of my life though, because you're trying to keep these celebrities safe. You have all these media everywhere. Every time we'd come back to the transporter, it was like 150 people. Not just fans, but people inside our tent as well, because it was media people and Toyota execs and this group of people and this posse. And it's like, dear Lord, what is happening right now? Like it was mayhem the whole weekend. So much fun. I don't know that I want to do that again though.
Who's faster of the two of them?
Oh, it's not fair to say which one, okay? But I will say, by the end of Keanu's 4th day, he was within a second of Cody after 6 months. He was very impressive. I would love to see him do more in motorsports.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Going back in your career,
Speaking of that first big break,
Mm-hmm.
what was that first moment? What did that feel like?
I've had some cool ones. I say the biggest break that I've had was the opportunity to go run IMSA Prototype Challenge in 2022. That was an important deal for me because my entire junior Formula career, leading up to that opportunity in 2022 was one-offs here or a partial schedule here or doing some testing in this, or it was never full-time. I never did anything full-time from the time I was in the Lucas cars in 2018, 2017, somewhere in there, to 2022, nothing full-time. It was all whining and dining, trying to figure out something and just taking this opportunity, like I said, or putting this together here. And 2022 was that moment where, okay, we have a full-time ride, we can actually go run for a championship and we can give it our all essentially, right? I'm not this whole season jumping around and jumping through hoops just to put one race on the schedule,
Yeah.
right? And that was an incredible year for many, many reasons, but that was the big break for my career, I'd say.
You feel like you can finally breathe?
I don't know about breathe per se. I mean, as far as the funding, yes. And as far as putting together the ride, because I knew I've signed the contract. I'm in this car until Petit Le Mans, right? I am in this car. We're good to go. I'd say the pressure really kicked in then, because now it's like, okay, now you've got a full-time ride. Now you better perform.
And you were partnered up with Memo Gidley, who you referred to as one of your mentors. So
Yep.
did you know him at all before that ride, or did you just kind of develop during that ride?
I didn't know Memo at all before that ride. Long story short of that ride, it was a last-minute deal to put Memo in the car with me. And because in that series you had to run a silver driver and a bronze driver. Bronze driver, it didn't work out with the one that was supposed to be in the car. And I'm thinking, we're 2 weeks before Daytona, and the original bronze, who's the car owner, might I add, he can't race the car anymore. So it's like, oh my God, the guy who bought the race car to go and compete is not allowed to go drive his car now. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, career's in the toilet. Like, this is all going downhill. Oh my, like, I'm gonna have to go work at Burger King, something like that, But the car owner calls me and he's like, hey, I just wanna let you know that just because I can't race doesn't mean this program still isn't gonna happen. So it's like, whoa. Then we call our team manager at that point and my personal manager at the time, Chris Wheeler, and we said, Chris, we need a driver. And he's like, I'm already on it. I'm getting you the fastest freaking bronze I can possibly find. So, and we went and got a former IndyCar driver, podium finisher out of Memo Gidley. I met him on grid here in Daytona, like Thursday of the Roar. So Thursday, the car unloads. Hi, Memo, great to meet you. I'm your teammate. Friday, we're practicing.
How was that? Was it like smooth sailing or a little rough in the beginning?
I mean, it was
Be honest.
pretty awesome, I will say. Like, he is such a wealth of knowledge, and like I said, he's a big mentor of mine to this day, and just the most awesome, encouraging guy. Like, took me under his wing right from the beginning, and like, we were a team from the jump.
Yeah, and you guys went to finish second in the entire team.
Yeah, it was pretty
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's pretty great.
First practice we were P4, second practice we were P2, and then he goes and throws it on the pole during night qualifying, and then the race we lapped the entire field, which was pretty incredible. First team to go to slicks, which is a big strategy call that even Chris Wheeler made during that time, which was crazy. Another story for another time, but. Ended up taking third because of some strategy and the way the yellows fell. It just didn't go our way, but still third in our first race ever together. And that was the moment right there where it's like you get out of the car and you've like proven, okay, I got my full-time ride. Finally, I got the opportunity and we performed, and it really, really went amazingly. It was like that, almost like relief. Of where like, okay, I've proven I can be a race car driver.
You can breathe.
Yeah, I can breathe for a second, right? Now we got to go to
Finally,
Mid-Ohio.
we got it,
Yeah. So that was the moment right there.
Tell me about Wheeler. How'd you get connected with him, and what kind of influence has he had?
Chris Wheeler was my manager. From the time I was getting out of the Lucas stuff and into Formula 4 and like some USF stuff that I was doing at the time, Chris became my manager kind of by accident. He was the director of Bell Helmets at the time, and I needed a helmet. So I went to him and I said, hey, I need a Bell, whatever, I can't remember. And he helped get me set up with it. And then he started asking, what are you doing? Like, what are you working on with this? And how's this? And I was upfront with him. I'm like, well, buddy, I don't have any money if that's what you're looking for. And he's like, well, no. He's like, no, that's not what I'm asking. At the time, he was kind of starting up his driver management company that he was starting, and I was kind of one of the guys that he brought under his wing, as well as Zach Veach, Oliver Askew, a couple of other drivers here and there. And I've always said there's nobody that I owe my entire career to more than Chris Wheeler, because the amount of phone calls that 18, 19-year-old Alexander made to Chris, annoying him every single time. And he always makes fun of me because my go-to line was always, hey, I've got an idea. Or, hey, what do you think about this? And that type of thing. And I annoyed him so bad for many, many years. But his tutelage and his getting me to the places that I needed to and introducing me to the right people and going on sponsorship meetings and having dinners and that kind of stuff, and also teaching me the business side of racing. There's nobody that has been more helpful for my entire career than that guy right there.
With professionals like Chris backing him, Alexander's continued to fight for more opportunities behind the wheel, including an Indy Next test with Juncos Hollinger Racing. But just like he said, drivers can never really take a breath because they always need to be thinking about the next opportunity. There's a huge amount of unknown in racing.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear about all this stuff? And what's to come in your career?
My biggest fear is the I don't want to say fear of failure, but it's the lack in success, if that makes sense. Like, I've worked 14 years old, right? I'm 27 now, and worked since that time for that one goal of the Indy 500, and to be at that point. I'd say biggest fear is not getting there, right? Because it's something that I think about before I go to sleep, as soon as my feet hit the floor in the morning. It's all I think about all day. It's, you know, why I spend hours and hours making marketing decks or calling, you know, people on the phone or whatever. And I'd say, yeah, that's my biggest fear, is just not getting to the point that you've always dreamed of as a kid, right?
What I appreciated about my time with Alexander was how candid he was explaining the challenges of being a racing driver. To make clear how much he wants it, we filmed this interview around the Rolex 24, a 24-hour endurance race in Daytona, Florida. At midnight on race day, when all but the drivers and essential personnel were asleep, I saw Alexander leaving partner meetings. He stayed late at the track to meet people and create opportunity. And he did so despite the fact that he still had a 2-hour drive home. That's what it takes to make the dream come true. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank
I
you.
think anyone who's watching is going to take a lot away from this, both the people who are aspiring, trying to get into this profession, and people who have been in it for a long time. I'm sure a lot of it, especially the difficulty of working through it, is something that'll resonate. So thank you.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to sponsor him, do that.
Please do.
Hit him up on Instagram.
Yeah.
Unless you wreck your car in iRacing. So.
Well, yeah. Don't message me then when I take you out on iRacing. Don't take offense to that.
No. And then thank you to Hankster's Hot Rods down here in Daytona, Florida, for giving us the space to be able to film this in.
I'm taking one home.
Hi, thanks so much for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future Insider episodes. We have tons of exciting guests lined up. Let us know who you'd like us to chat with in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.